This is your Weather Extreme video for Sunday, March the 25th. I'm Brian Peters. Thanks for tuning in. And it's going to be a gorgeous day. Let's start out with some Skycam imagery from our Alpha Skycam network. And there's a look at Gadsden. We see a little fog down in the valley down there. And then there's a beautiful shot from Haleyville as we look out over the downtown district. And we can see the sun putting some color in the eastern sky. The storm system that brought us the weather Thursday and Friday, and a little bit of weather yesterday, has gradually moved off to the east, and you can see the surface low over eastern North Carolina. In the meantime, in the upper atmosphere, though, that big closed low, that cold core low that was giving us some interesting weather yesterday, has finally moved off into the Carolinas as well. That puts us under a nice northwesterly flow, but not a terribly cold northwesterly flow. You can see the fetch coming in from basically the Dakotas down into the southeastern U.S. So it'll be cooler, as we can see from the overall U.S. map of temperatures. Not much freezing weather. That's the red line there, the 32-degree isotherm, and certainly not much freezing weather to deal with. Across central Alabama, we're starting the day off nicely cool. Birmingham at 50 and Cullman at 50, a little bit chillier in the Tennessee River Valley. QPF pretty much gives you the forecast for the next 5 days. You can see that the bottom line is we're going to stay pretty dry all the way out through, and this one goes out through Thursday afternoon. On the Storm Prediction Center's day 2 now, day 1, things are pretty settled down, but day 2, slight risk over a good portion of the Dakotas, stretching over into Minnesota. And then on day 3, the slight risk shifts down into Missouri and Illinois, primarily from about Chicago down to just to the north of Tulsa. Now, the 06 CGFS model run, and as we start this out, we're going to look at the European as well. And for the first 4 or 5 days, they're in pretty good agreement. There goes the weather system over the outer banks of the Carolinas. In the upper atmosphere by Monday, you can see we're coming under a pretty strong ridge, and that ridge moves over us on Tuesday. In the meantime, there is a strong shortwave moving across the Canadian-U.S. border just to the west of the Great Lakes. That will help to dampen out our ridge somewhat, so dampens down the ridge. And, of course, as it does, it will drag a front down into the Ohio River Valley, and this is Wednesday. Now, I'm thinking we're going to stay dry down here. Of course, the surface high is off to our east, and that could mean some moisture increases, but looks like most of the dynamics are going to be well to our north, so it doesn't look like we're going to have much in the way of issues. And there's a look at the 500 millibar pattern from the European, and indeed in good agreement with the two models. Now, that doesn't last long, unfortunately. The little short wave coming across the Great Lakes digs into New England, and as it does, of course, it changes our fetch just a little bit, bringing us into a more northwesterly flow, and that will certainly help to push the front down into the area, but there's going to be nothing really to give us any forcing. So the bottom line is, the GFS suggesting a possibility that we might have had a widely scattered shower. I think I'm going to leave it dry for the time being. Now, Friday, we're beginning to see some pretty significant changes. Now, first of all, both models are in good agreement on that little short wave coming across Texas and coming out of the southern Rockies. We can see that on the European as well, and the positions are very good as well. And that means that there should be some threat of rain off to our west. But, of course, the question will be how much moisture we have here. And so I've actually put in a small chance for showers on Friday. Now, like I say, this is where some differences begin to crop in. Here's the GFS for Saturday, and you can see that the GFS just doesn't do much with it. It kind of keeps it out over Texas, not doing a whole lot with it. The European, on the other hand, moves it out over the lower Mississippi River Valley, while at the same time it is digging a pretty strong trough down across the eastern Rockies. So the result is that the GFS suggests we'll be dry on Saturday, but the European is not, is suggesting we could be wet on Saturday. Now, moving out to Sunday, the differences are still even bigger. There's the GFS, and you can see that it's just got this little short wave kind of over Texas. And then the European, on the other hand, has got a big bowling ball closed low over southeastern Missouri. Now, that certainly results in some big differences because that puts some showers over the area, but very little. But the European, on the other hand, is suggesting that there may be a fairly sizable rainfall event for late Saturday and into Sunday, perhaps like we had the other day where we had multiple lines moving through. So big differences out there. So right now it looks like next weekend, there's a lot of uncertainty, but it looks like next weekend could see some issues. Now, we don't have European beyond the end of that forecast period, so we can only go to the GFS. And GFS suggesting now around the 5th of April that we could see a pretty cold event. That's a pretty strong, pretty deep trough over the central part of the country, and the thicknesses below that suggest 540 line coming down into Oklahoma and Arkansas. So indeed, some chilly weather if that indeed materializes. But the GFS is also suggesting that by the 9th, we're back under pretty much a near zonal flow with a little bit of a ridging across the south central part of the United States. So definitely some interesting weather. But in the meantime, we get to enjoy some wonderful spring weather, especially today. But we gradually warm up to around 80 to 82 for much of the rest of the week after today and maybe tomorrow. But the good news, too, is that temperatures continue to stay cool in the morning. So, makes it feel a little bit better. Well, thanks for tuning in. James Spann should be back with the next edition first thing Monday morning. In the meantime, I hope your Sunday is a good one, and Godspeed.
Thank you for trusting us to be your #1 source for news
in all of Central Alabama.
in back-to-back ratings periods.
More people watched ABC 3340
than any other station in Birmingham.